The wisest among men do not fight the world, they endure it. They move through it like phantoms who have seen behind the curtain, knowing that every man worships his own delusion and calls it truth. The secret strategy of the wise is not conquest, but distance. They do not rebel against the world because rebellion grants it power. They withdraw their faith from its illusions, and in doing so, they become untouchable. The greatest violence a man can commit against illusion is to see through it, for when he sees, he no longer serves. He no longer kneels before the idols of progress, virtue, and pleasure. He no longer burns himself for the promise of tomorrow. He knows that existence itself is a cruel stage play, and that the applause of the masses is the laughter of the blind. Every age invents new masks for despair. The modern world calls them dreams, success, self-fulfillment. Yet beneath these ornaments, the same animal will groans for meaning. The same hunger repeats itself, disguised by technology, crowned by vanity, sanctified by slogans. The wise see this and remain silent. For truth, once spoken among the hypnotized, is treated as an act of war. He who knows too much must learn to act like he knows nothing. That is the first law of surviving among the deluded. The second is colder: to never expect the world to understand what has cost you your innocence. For wisdom is not a treasure, it is an exile. To see the world as it is to lose all appetite for belonging. The masses crave approval. They bow before applause as if it were truth. But the wise have seen the machinery that produces that applause, and they laugh quietly. They know that public opinion is not the voice of reason, but the echo of fear. Every man repeats what others believe, hoping it will drown out the emptiness within. The wise do not hate the crowd, they simply cease to need it. They move through noise with the calm of one who has buried all illusions. Their solitude is not despair, it is strategy. They live within the world, but not of it, a shadow among shadows, unseen yet awake. This is their weapon. Their stillness, their refusal to dance in the masquerade of meaning. And the masses, sensing something alien, whisper, "He is cold, he is proud, he is strange." But they do not understand that detachment is not arrogance. It is clarity that has burned away compassion for falsehood. At the root of existence lies not peace, but the will that blind, insatiable drive that demands to exist, to consume, to perpetuate. It is the master of all beings, the invisible tyrant behind every act, every thought, every heartbeat. From the amoeba to the emperor, all dance to its same cruel rhythm. The will hungers, and in its hunger, the world was born. What is pleasure but the brief silence of pain? What is love but the will yearning to reproduce its own torment? What is art but the attempt to momentarily escape the machinery of craving? The wise do not praise these things. They observe them with a melancholy that borders on compassion, for they see that even beauty is tragedy in disguise, the cry of the finite against the infinite. Man calls himself free, yet every choice he makes is compelled by something deeper and unchosen thirst. He believes he acts. In truth, he reacts. He believes he desires. In truth, he is driven by what desires through him. Freedom is the most exquisite lie, for who can choose not to will? Desire is the furnace of suffering. It burns ceaselessly, devouring contentment and spitting out illusion. No sooner does a man obtain what he wanted than he invents new desires to justify his misery. He lives as if the next object, the next success, the next affection will finally silence the hunger, yet the hunger feeds on the chase itself. It is not satisfaction the will desires, but continuation. The wise man sees this cycle and steps outside of it, not through rebellion, but resignation. He knows that the only way to end the torment is not to satisfy the will, but to still it. And yet, to still the will is to deny life itself, for life is the will's expression. Here lies the tragedy of understanding. To see through desire is to see through existence, and once seen, one cannot unsee. Modern man believes he has conquered suffering with comfort. He builds cities of distraction and temples of pleasure. He confuses convenience with meaning, but all he has done is gilded his cage. The will still howls beneath his polished freedom. Technology has not liberated him. It has only made his delusion portable. The wise do not envy his toys. They watch the ceaseless movement of men running, shouting, striving, as one might watch ants on a burning log. They see in every ambition the same ancient disease. the refusal to sit still in the presence of one's own emptiness. And so the wise man chooses differently. He does not chase satisfaction. He studies its absurdity. He learns to desire nothing, for in wanting nothing, he cannot be enslaved. This is not joy. This is not happiness. It is freedom of a cruel kind, the freedom that comes when one ceases to expect mercy from life. The masses do not want truth. They want comfort shaped like truth. They prefer the mirror that flatters over the mirror that reveals. They live in agreement, not in understanding, for agreement demands no courage. Culture, that magnificent masquerade, exists to sanctify delusion. It provides moral costumes for animal instincts. It paints greed as ambition, lust as romance, cowardice as prudence, and ignorance as virtue. And thus, the human race continues to call its blindness progress. Morality, in the hands of the herd, is never about truth. It is about control. The masses do not ask, what is good? They ask, what will keep the system stable? Virtue becomes whatever sustains the illusion of harmony, and those who question the illusion are branded as dangerous. To think for oneself is to break the social contract of comfort. To doubt the sacred is to be exiled from belonging. And yet, the wise man prefers exile to hypocrisy. He would rather walk alone in the desert of truth than drink from the fountains of lies. The wise, therefore, wear masks not of deceit, but of survival. They speak carefully, for truth, spoken in the wrong ears, becomes weapon and wound alike. They nod where others cheer, smile where others rage, and retreat inward while the crowd feasts on noise. They do not try to awaken the sleeping, for sleep is the only peace many can bear. The strategy of the wise is invisibility, to live unnoticed, to blend among the actors while knowing the play. They know that to be truly seen is to be crucified, for the masses cannot forgive the one who exposes their dream. Thus, they whisper truth in riddles, hide wisdom in art, and let time reveal what men once mocked. Their silence is not defeat. It is preservation of depth in a shallow world. For truth, to survive, must sometimes hide beneath the language of beauty. There are moments when the wise man stops dissecting and simply looks. Moments when the endless pulse of suffering softens into something almost beautiful. He sees the world as it is cruel, transient, indifferent, and yet, for an instant, he does not resist it. He does not try to name it, to reform it, to escape it. He lets it be, and in that stillness, he discovers a strange peace. Not because life has become good, but because he has ceased to demand that it should be. This is the quiet music of resignation, not the coward's surrender, but the sage's release. It is the acceptance that everything from the birth of a star to the fall of a tear is governed by a rhythm older than thought. The wise learn to bow before this rhythm, not as slaves, but as witnesses. They no longer ask why, for they know the question itself was born from the will's dissatisfaction. They simply observe, and in that observation, they are momentarily free. The unwise call this despair. They say, he has lost his passion, his drive, his spark. But what they call spark was only restlessness. What they call drive was only the will's fever. The wise man has not lost fire, he has cooled into clarity. His silence is not apathy, but lucidity without hope. Everything perishes, yet not all perishing is tragedy. The falling leaf, the fading sound, the dying flame, they speak of beauty and brevity. The cherry blossom does not mourn its fall, it fulfills its nature. It is not less for ending, but complete because it ends. So too, the wise find solace in impermanence. They no longer demand eternity from what was never meant to last. There is a dignity in futility once it is understood. Every struggle, every loss, every vain pursuit, all of it becomes transparent. Like mist illuminated by dawn, you see through the pain, and you see it is not personal, it is structural. It belongs not to you, but to the architecture of existence itself. And when this realization settles, the personal drama dissolves. You no longer curse the rain for falling or the night for returning. You watch, you endure, you understand, and understanding is enough. In such moments, life becomes art without meaning, and therefore without error. The bird sings, not for audience nor purpose, but because the song is its nature. The wise man, seeing this, begins to live as the bird sings, without justification. He acts without obsession, loves without possession, walks without destination. He becomes a note in the music of the world, aware of his transience, yet at peace with it. But even in this stillness, he does not romanticize suffering. He does not call it noble or holy. He calls it by its true name, necessary. For the universe is not a design of benevolence, but of balance. And suffering, cruel as it feels, is the mechanism through which all things remain alive. Pleasure blinds, pain awakens. Through pain, the will reminds us that we exist, and through understanding pain, we remember we are more than the will. When the wise man ceases to demand a happy ending, life ceases to feel like a tragedy. It becomes a vast unfolding of phenomena waves, rising and falling, without meaning, without malice. In this oceanic understanding, he no longer resists the tide. He simply drifts, not as a victim, but as one who has learned that the water itself was never against him. The ocean does not conspire, it moves, and in its movement lies peace. This is the breath between shadows, the rare pause when consciousness rests in itself. It is not joy, but serenity stripped of illusion. It is the recognition that there is nothing to attain, because there was never anything missing. The will drives us to chase, but what if the chase itself was the lie? The wise answer, by standing still. They do not claim enlightenment. They claim understanding. They do not rise above humanity. They simply cease pretending that humanity is divine. They have seen the machinery of life, and having seen it, they stop worshipping it. They no longer pray for deliverance, for they know there is nowhere to be delivered to. Existence has no opposite, no escape, no final victor. And yet, in its raw inevitability, it glows. The wise man does not teach peace. He embodies the stillness that comes when one has finished wrestling with the impossible. His eyes no longer seek, they reflect. His words no longer persuade, they reveal. He does not shout against illusion, he simply stands where illusion cannot survive in silence. And that silence, though the crowd mistakes it for defeat, is the highest form of defiance. For in it lies the only victory left to the lucid, the refusal to be deceived. The world believes the wise have secrets. And in a sense, they do, but not of manipulation or dominance. Their secret is simpler and therefore unbearable. They do not play the game. They have withdrawn their consent from the theater. They watch as others chase crowns made of dust, lovers made of longing, and gods made of fear, and they smile, not from superiority, but from release. The masses seek to be powerful. The wise seek to be free. Power is only the will disguised as triumph a hunger wearing a crown. Freedom, true freedom, begins when the hunger itself dissolves. Thus, the wise man's strategy is invisible. He participates in nothing that feeds the will. He does not need to win because he no longer competes. He does not need to prove because he no longer performs. His strategy is retreat, but a retreat so complete it becomes mastery. While the crowd exhausts itself in motion, he stands still, and in that stillness, he sees everything. He knows that history is only the record of men chasing illusions that another century will call barbaric. He knows that morality, politics, and fame are just names for collective craving. And he knows that no civilization has ever cured the disease of wanting. Thus, he ceases to prescribe cures. He studies the disease, accepts it, and in doing so, transcends it. His power is invisible because it is inward. He controls no one, and thus, he cannot be controlled. He serves no illusion, and thus, none can seduce him. He obeys no will, and thus, he stands apart, even from himself. When he speaks, he does not persuade. He unsettles. His words do not offer answers, but dissolve questions. He does not say, believe, but see. For belief is just another disguise of the will, the need for certainty in a world that offers none. Seeing, on the other hand, is freedom. It asks for nothing. It demands no hope. It is the gaze of one who has awakened from the collective dream and does not wish to return. And so, he moves through life quietly, an exile among men, a sovereign among illusions. The crowd laughs, the crowd weeps, the crowd kneels, and he watches, not with disdain, but with the serenity of one who has understood the inevitability of the play. He knows that even folly has its place, that ignorance too is a rhythm of the cosmic dance. He does not interfere. To correct the world is to misunderstand its necessity. This is his secret strategy, non-participation in madness. He does not oppose the herd, he outlasts it. He does not argue with fools, he becomes inaudible to them. He does not seek converts, he seeks stillness. His revolution is invisible because it occurs in the interior of consciousness, where no army can march and no applause can reach. In his silence, the will stars. In his understanding, illusion dies. In his solitude, he discovers the only kingdom worth ruling, the one within. When all illusions are burned away, what remains is not despair, but stillness. The world continues as it always has. The strong devour, the weak obey, the fools celebrate, and the wise endure. Nothing has changed except the gaze. For the one who has seen through the dream no longer trembles before it. He watches as the tide of existence carries everything toward dissolution, and he does not resist. For resistance is born of hope, and hope is the last mask of the will. After the fever of desire comes the long, cool silence of understanding. The wise man no longer asks for meaning, for he has learned that the question itself was the source of torment. He no longer seeks justice from nature, mercy from time, or permanence from life. He accepts that the universe is neither kind nor cruel, it simply is. And in this neutrality, he finds peace deeper than comfort, quieter than joy. The will does not die easily. It whispers still, in the bones, in the blood, in the instinct that wants to reach, to grasp, to claim. But the wise man no longer obeys. He watches the whisper, as one might watch smoke dissolve in air, knowing it cannot be conquered, only outlasted. To kill the will is impossible. To outlive its power within oneself is salvation enough. He walks through the ruins of desire as a man who has survived fire. Where others see loss, he sees release. Where others mourn what passes, he bows to impermanence. He knows that nothing belongs to him, not even himself. And because he owns nothing, nothing can be taken from him. This is the final freedom. Not the possession of peace, but the absence of need. The world remains a theater, but the stage no longer deceives him. He watches the actors weep and rejoice, promise and betray, as he once did, but his laughter now carries neither malice nor mockery. It is the laughter of recognition. The laughter that knows all tragedy is repetition. He no longer condemns, he understands. And in that understanding, judgment loses its weight. Truth does not comfort, it cleanses. It strips away illusion until even sorrow becomes transparent. And when sorrow is transparent, it ceases to wound. What remains is a calm awareness, the soul's naked gaze upon existence, no longer asking to be pleased. He does not flee from the world, nor does he cling to it. He stands within it, unshaken, as one who has made peace with both light and shadow. The wise man's heart beats slower now, not from weariness, but from rhythm with eternity. He knows there is no redemption in time, only repetition and dissolution. Yet he is not bitter, for even in futility there is form. Even in nothingness there is silence, and silence, when heard without fear, is enough. He looks upon the stars, and no longer wonders who placed them there. He looks upon suffering, and no longer asks why. He sees that both are expressions of the same blind, restless force, the will that creates and consumes without reason. And in knowing this, he no longer curses the darkness. He simply stops lighting candles for comfort. He lets the dark be dark, and in that acceptance, it becomes luminous. When all striving ceases, what remains is not emptiness, it is awareness freed from purpose. The wise man no longer says, I live for something. He says only, I live, and that is enough. He no longer clings to identity, for he has seen the self as yet another illusion, spun by the will to sustain its game. He wears his name lightly, his memories like fading ink, his body like borrowed cloth. And yet, for all his detachment, he feels more alive than ever, precisely because nothing within him demands to be more than it is. In this final sobriety, even death loses its sting. He knows it is not the end, for there was never a beginning. Life and death are not opposites. They are two sides of the same current, one inhalation, one exhalation. And the one who has ceased to grasp understands that both are sacred, both inevitable, both peaceful in their blindness. To die is not tragedy. It is the last surrender to what was always beyond control. Thus, the wise man's final act is not escape, it is acceptance. He does not seek transcendence as reward, for even transcendence belongs to the will. He does not yearn for paradise, for paradise is only the continuation of desire in disguise. He desires nothing, expects nothing, clings to nothing. He simply abides calm, lucid, free. And the world, sensing his silence, grows uneasy. For nothing terrifies the herd more than a man who cannot be manipulated by hope. They cannot tempt him with pleasure, nor threaten him with pain. He has stepped outside their economy of reward and punishment. He lives without needing to win. He dies without needing to be remembered. And in this invisibility lies his final mastery. For while the crowd seeks happiness, the wise seek nothing, and in that nothing they find peace. Not the peace of victory, but the peace of equilibrium. Not the peace of heaven, but the peace of having nothing left to lose. The will continues. The world endures. The play goes on, but the wise man has seen behind the curtain. He bows, not in worship, but in understanding. He exits the stage with quiet grace, leaving behind only silence, and in that silence, truth breathes.